It's Monday, the 19th of August, 2022. Welcome to the Fast Five by Fear and Greed, where we give you the top 5 business stories you need to know in just 5 minutes. I'm Michael Thompson, and good morning, Sean Aylmer.
Good morning, Michael.
Sean, 5 big stories today, actually, to get through in 5 minutes. Let's jump into it. We've had about 90% of companies now having reported earnings this earnings season, and overall, the results have been probably a little disappointing.
Yeah, I think so. Earnings season has just 3 days to go and 90% by market capitalisation have reported. Across the market, about 1/3 of companies have reported higher than expected earnings, about a 1/4 below. That means about 43% are in the middle somewhere. The number for above expectations is actually one of the worst half years in the past decade. Now, in terms of individual companies, there's been some standouts, BHP being the obvious one, along with the massive profits from the coal miners. The retailers have been pretty mixed. Some have been pretty good, some not so good. Same deal with the healthcare stocks and the property companies. Commonwealth Bank and CSL, two of the really big guys on the market, have both lost ground since their earnings announcements. Telstra has been an outperformer. And then some stocks, WiseTech Global is an example, have done really well since outlining results. It's almost because they prompt investors to think differently about them. Really important, shares are traded on what's going to happen, not what has happened. It's all about the outlook. Companies are united in saying labour costs are high, many raw material costs are high. Some companies are able to pass that through via higher prices. What all companies agree on is it's really tricky to work out what's going to happen over the next 6, 12 months, couple of years. So there's less guidance from companies. What it says, the future is unclear.
All right, on to story number 2, Sean. And what on earth is going on international markets at the moment? It was a big weekend.
Oh, it sure was. In fact, it's a scary weekend. First, US Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell made it clear in a speech that rates in the world's largest economy are going up and they're likely to stay high for a while just to get control of inflation. If a recession is a byproduct, then the US will have a recession. Simple as that. Share markets tumbled, and in fact, Elon Musk lost about $5.5 billion in 8 minutes as a result of those comments from Chairman Powell. Across the Atlantic in Europe, the European Central Bank policymakers basically said the same thing. They're a bit behind in terms of lifting interest rates. They said there are more rate hikes on the way, and if a recession hits, which is likely in Europe, c'est la vie. They need to get control of inflation. So you've got the US and Europe saying rates are rising even if there is a recession.
Okay, on to story number 3 now, and we are right on the cusp of spring now, Sean. But in the final weekend of winter, the auction clearance rate fell sharply, providing pretty strong evidence, really, that the recent signs that the market might be bottoming are misleading.
The CoreLogic preliminary clearance rates weren't great. Sydney fell to under 57%, Melbourne was 61%, Brisbane's down to 42%, nationwide the figure was 59%. Now, there was a big jump in auction numbers over the weekend and that contributed to lower clearance rates, but market watchers are saying buyers are being driven by a fear of paying too much, which is pretty rational in a falling market. Of course, the big test comes over the next 3 months during the spring selling season. We'll really know what's going on in 3 months' time.
Okay, story number 4. How about this one, Sean? A 1985 Ford Escort RS Turbo Series 1 with less than 25,000 miles on the clock has just sold in the UK for £724,500. How about that?
And that's because it used to be driven by Princess Diana. The auction over the weekend comes 25 years after the princess died in a limousine that crashed in Paris as she was trying to escape the paparazzi. Lady Di was often seen driving the car around Chelsea and Kensington, clocking up 6,800 miles before returning it to Ford. Now, the car had multiple other owners since then before ending back at Ford. I bet those owners didn't realise the value.
I'm sure they didn't. Okay, story number 5, and a very early contender for my favourite story of the entire week. We are going back to the moon with NASA's Artemis 1 launch scheduled for tonight, weather permitting.
I love the fact that no matter how technically advanced society is, we still have to worry about the weather.
Yes, it's a leveler, isn't it?
It is. Artemis 1 is the biggest rocket launch in history and part of the program to get the first woman and the first person of colour, as NASA puts it, on the moon by 2025. The unmanned craft will travel 1.3 million miles over 42 days, and the work done in space will be used to help send the first humans to Mars. Good luck to them.
Yeah, well said. That's it, the top 5 business stories in 5 minutes. Thank you, Sean.
Thank you, Michael.
It's Monday, the 29th of August, 2022. Remember to hit follow on the podcast. And if 5 minutes isn't enough, then you can find our longer daily show called Fear and Greed, wherever you listen to podcasts, including a bunch of interviews and things. Today, we are talking about investing in international stocks. I'm Michael Thompson, and that was the Fast Five by Fear and Greed. Have a great day.